Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Poetry Thursday. I recently found a nice big fat anthology of 20th century American poetry, which is a school, a type, a time period of poetry that I half like and then half hate, split right down the middle with the beats, which changed poetry into this arcane act of ritual of self-absorption that and ruined it, removed it from the public square, removed it from a type of literature that an ordinary person could like, I think. But the first half of the century was not that way. The first half of the century, and even the second half, had some notable exceptions. And I thought, as soon as I saw this, for $1, I thought, let's explore 20th century poetry together on Poetry Thursdays for the rest of the year. I don't know if we'll get through the whole of the rest of the year, but it sounds like fun to me. I learn a lot. I learn every time I do poetry on Poetry Thursday and just throw the door open to ask you questions. I learn a lot. So we're going to try that with this anthology. And the editors of this anthology, we have Dana Joya, David Mason, and Meg Shorkey. They have decided to start a gigantic collection of 20th century poetry with 19th century poetry. They've decided to start with Stephen Crane, the young author of The Open Boat and Red Badge of Courage and Maggie, Girl of the Streets, who wrote quite a bit of poetry, but all of it before the 20th century technically began. They've decided to start with him, and they have quite a bit of Stephen Crane poetry. I'm going for one that has a little bit more length to it, so that this Poetry Thursday video is not just 2 minutes long. So we're going to deal with A Man Adrift on a Slim Spar, which is just the first line of the poem. It doesn't actually have a title. We're just going to read that. And this is from, do you tell me? 1899. So, right before the 20th century. It does, and then Crane's poetry was revived a few decades later, and more attention was paid to it. So I think the editors are right here. I think it does belong as the introduction to 20th century poetry. So let's read this poem, Man Adrift on a Slim Spar, and see what we make of it. A man adrift on a slim spar, a horizon smaller than the rim of a bottle, tented waves rearing lashy dark points, the near wine of froth in circles. God is cold. The incessant raise and swing of the sea, and the growl after growl of crest, the sinkings, green, seething, endless, the upheaval half completed. God is cold. The seas are in the hollow of the hand, and here the hand is capitalized. Oceans may be turned to a spray raining down through the stars because of a gesture of pity toward a babe. Oceans may become gray ashes, die with a long moan and a roar amid the tumult of the fishes and the cries of the ships because the hand beckons the mice. A horizon smaller than a doomed assassin's cap, inky, surging tumults, a reeling, drunken sky and no sky, a pale hand sliding from a polished spar. God is cold. The puff of a coat imprisoning air, a face kissing the water death, a weary slow sway of a lost hand, and the sea, the moving sea, the sea. God is cold. It's pretty good, I think. Pretty good. I think Stephen Crane, I worship at the altar of Stephen Crane anyway. I think he's an amazing writer considering how incredibly young he died, but I love that. Just love it. Now, some of the imagery here is going to be predictable if you know anything about Stephen Crane, because he was fascinated with the sea, and The Open Boat is all about how gigantic and pitiless the sea can be. The at least nominal evoked action of this poem is someone drowning to death, someone who is clinging to the spar, to a piece of wood, after a ship has sunk, and he's going down. That wonderful, chilling line, a face kissing the water death, a weary, slow sway of a lost hand. You can practically see it, right? And that face kissing a water death reflects Crane's knowledge of what a lot of drowning victims look like, what their actual faces look like. But what is the hand here? And what is, you notice every stanza ends with God is cold, but one. There's one stanza that doesn't. The main, the longest, the central stanza does not end that way. Instead, in that central stanza, we are given alternatives to the horrible, doomed action of the poem itself. The horrible, doomed action of the poem itself is a man slowly losing strength and slipping off a spar at sea to drown. But in the middle stanza, we're given alternatives to that. The hand, presumably the hand of God, could reach in. The same hand that gently strokes a babe or that reaches out to a little mouse could change the whole reality of this. Could what is it? What is it again? Oceans may become gray ashes, die with a long moan and roar amid the tumult of the fishes and the cries of the ships, because the hand beckons the mice. It could be that the viewpoint of this poem, the vantage point of this doomed, dying person, could be saved. The happenstance that put me here that is the God who is cold. This could happen. A hand could reach in and save me, and it doesn't, because the God here evoked in this poem is cold. Now, I'm not 100% sure why a God is evoked at all, although Crane would have known firsthand, and certainly he would have heard stories about how doomed mariners do invoke God. Routinely they do, even doomed mariners have never invoked a God before in their life. I like the outlook of it. It's not a pretty outlook. It's not a warm or fuzzy one, but it's definitely of a line with Crane's look at nature, which is impersonal and cold. Where if there is a God, the God in nature certainly does not care about you. I think that it was really, really evocative. So I think I'm going to read just one Stephen Crane poem out of this anthology. So we're going to move on. We'll move on to the next poet for next Poetry Thursday. And I'll wrap this up for now. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.